Most of us are all here. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the Rec Innovation Lab at San Diego Miramar College. Welcome to the students at San Diego State University from San Diego Miramar College, and then all the entrepreneurs who are joining us here today for this second part of our workshop that we started this a month ago with the Proven Recruiting team, and it was an important topic. It was a lively discussion, and in that first workshop, we realized that we wanted more. We wanted to continue this discussion and look a little bit more into the challenges, the difficulties, the unique approach that minority founders often need to take when they are selling to people who are non-minorities. And so I'm really grateful for all of you for coming back. I'm grateful to Lois, to Mike, to the entire Proven Recruiting team. And looks like we have a full house here today. We have about 60 people, and I know we have more coming. So welcome everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's get going here. Welcome, Louis.
Hello. Thanks everybody for joining.
Mike.
I know that maybe I think some of you may be new faces or maybe not, but I appreciate everybody kind of listening in the last part one, and I know it was well received, and there's a lot of discussion that came from that. So we were asked to do a part two, so we're excited to kind of go through this discussion and kind of walk through things. So just some housekeeping notes, just to kind of make sure that we can go through the presentation and ensure that we can kind of get through some of the things we do want to talk about. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I would say if you have any statements, do keep it under 2 minutes, at least so that we can kind of make sure that if anybody else has other questions, we can go through that, in addition to just going through the presentation itself as well. But let's get started. So if we want to do a quick run through of another intro for those of you that are new. So my name is Mike Chiv. I work at Proven Recruiting. I'm on the finance and accounting team. Been recruiting for about 4 years now. Prior to that, I did work in finance and accounting. I think the last part one, I did share an example of my own experiences with selling to the majority as a minority when it dealt with age and working as a manager for people that were almost like 30 or 40 years older than me. And I was able to do that through some of my examples that we'll talk through here today. But that's me. I'll go to Louis. Quick intro.
Hello, everyone. I'm the resident DJ, supposedly, here at Proven Recruiting. One of the founders at Proven. We're now 14 years old, and we are, last count, about 62 employees and 4 locations: San Diego, LA, Austin, Dallas. And we just found out that we just surpassed $20 million for the first time in the history of our company this past month. And that's me.
Rats.
Thank you.
And then I'll go last. So my name is Ron Childs. I run a technology staffing firm called Neverlong Recruit. Building up a new relationship or building up a new company. I just recently started. A little bit about my background. I have maybe 7 or 8 years of specifically recruiting, and over the last 4 years, I've been specifically focusing on technology. One of the things about myself is I just like to give back and kind of show people the journey, because obviously where I'm at, I'm in a great place, but it's so further than I'm trying to go. But my road to this route, or my road to this specific destination, was not easy. And I love to share my background just to kind of show you that success does not have one specific way. You literally can run 1,000 laps before you're able to understand the correct technique to even get to your pace. So just here to show my insight and kind of share what I've learned through this journey.
Perfect. You guys? All right. So we'll do a quick recap, right, of kind of some of the themes that we did run through last time. And I think if for those of you that attended or did view the prior workshop that we did, and for part one, we obviously went through our own examples of selling as a minority to the majority individually, but then we did hear quite a bit of good examples from some of the audience members as well of your own examples of selling, right? Whether that was age, whether that was diversity can mean so many different things when it comes to selling, right? Whether it's sex, your race, your background, all these different kind of various different categories. And, one of the reoccurring things that I think we did discuss was what's right and what's not regarding kind of conforming based on these specific characteristics, right? We listed. And, we talked about what each person must determine and what they're willing to kind of compromise in order to, I guess, sell to the majority as a minority. Any other, comments? I think, Louis, I don't know, or RC, I think just even recalling when we reviewed the previous part one, any other recap items that we want to talk about? We'll go through some of those things later in a bit too, but.
No, I got some ideas, but not yet. Let's keep going.
All righty. So can we cue the poll? I think not Tanya.
I think Angela might have the poll. So Angela, do you want to go ahead and pull up the poll? There it is.
All right. So this is so the question would be who who would you hire for head of sales at your company? Out of
So A, B, and C, and do we have who A, B, and C? Oh, there we are, A, B, and C.
Yep.
Right on the screen. Yep, there we go. Marilyn, DeAndre, or Tom? Great. So, so for those of you who you should all be able to see the poll right now. I think in the recording the poll doesn't show up, but just for the recording, the question is, who would you hire for head of sales at your company? Just choose one: A, B, or C. Marilyn, DeAndre, or Tom. And we have still about 20 people still need to answer. A few more. Thanks. All right, coming in. About 46 people answered. Just a minute more.
We need the Jeopardy music here.
I know, right? I was thinking the same thing. It's a little quiet.
Mike,
I
can you
think-
hum it for us?
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
No, that's all I got.
Awesome. All right.
Keep
So I
your
think
day job, right?
we have just about everybody's answer. Just about everybody's answer. Should we go ahead and close the poll?
Sure. And
And
we can
there
share
the
the results too.
Mhm.
There are the results.
So vast majority. Can everybody see the results there? Vast majority, about 65% went to A, about 27% went to B, and about 7% to C.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I think people cheated. I think people went on LinkedIn and cheated.
Yeah.
so how about we open this up to the audience and questions, and we can kind of get
I think
some
Steve made a really
thoughts.
good point, which is we would want to know their qualifications first. But I think part of the challenge here is so many times we are superficially making judgments about people even before we know anything about them. And so it is interesting that Marilyn did get the nod here. But good choice.
Yeah.
Are these
Do we
real
have-
people in the company? I'm curious. Are these actual employees of your company?
Two of them are, Marilyn and Tom are, and DeAndre is somebody that works with RC.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Yeah.
do we have the qualifications?
Yeah. Let's see here. We'll just put them all together.
We should have actually
Uh.
we should have had all those out there before. It would have been. I think it would
I
have
think that
provided
might
a
have
little bit.
biased people.
Right.
That was, yeah. We were playing into the biases of what people see.
His grandmother at 35 have to know.
Yeah.
What are you saying there?
We're
Yeah.
just providing a fact.
Yeah.
Statement of fact, yeah.
Anyway,
Cool. All right. So the elephant in the room, because we discussed this a little bit. I'll let Louis kind of take this piece.
Yeah, I think
Um,
the last time we really got into the conversation that it got kind of interesting was the idea of what's a compromise and what's not. And there's a case right now that is, I don't know that it's actually in the courts, but there is an individual who is a Sikh officer. He's in the United States Marine Corps, and he is currently allowed to wear a turban. And I think with the turban, he's got long hair. And is that something that should be allowed? Or because he's joined the Marine Corps, is that something that are we now compromising who the Marines and the Marine Corps are? And I guess I asked that within the context of the professional work environment, because I'll be honest, I've had a personal bias against men with ponytails. I've never personally, Tanya's laughing.
I know I was going to say something inappropriate. I'm glad. Yeah, I was going to say because they're gross, but
Okay.
but no, you're right.
But
Fair bias.
in a professional work environment,
Right,
the business environment, I've rarely, if ever, I think one individual that stands out is Ted Waite, who founded Gateway back in, I think, the 80s or 90s here in San Diego. But outside of Ted Waite, I've never personally worked with or met somebody who is in the professional business environment who has had a long ponytail. And I've met creative artists, I've met people who are in the creative fields that have had ponytails, and that's who they are and what they do. But personally, I have a bias against men with long hair. And so when it comes to hair, when it comes to Black people, afros or cornrows or anything that is more ethnic, what is appropriate and what's not, and what is compromising and what's not. I mean, that's just one thing that, for this meeting, for example, one of the things I was actually thinking about doing, maybe I can do it right now. And I'll actually put in my.
Oh, I have a question. So just regarding the Marines and turban and long hair. So with someone in the Marines with long hair, is there any like hazard to that, or is it just a look requirement that they're going for? You get what I'm saying?
I don't know enough about the case, honestly.
Mhm.
But this is a Sikh is somebody, I mean, it's a religious thing. It's part of his religion, to not cut his hair, to wear the turban as a sign of, I think, of his faith. And so, and also Sikhs are traditionally known as an amazing warrior, people of, that have been warriors in their times. And so it's not as if they can't fight, in their own tradition, but whether it's the Marine Corps or whether it's my environment where I see somebody and I think their hair is inappropriate, where does that cross the line from, hey, this is part of, we talk about bringing your authentic self to work, your full self to work. And where does it cross the line from bringing your full authentic self to work and then compromising because you want to be part of the group, and I think that's again just one of the small things that we talked about. I changed my screen name here because that's my given Korean name. I was given an anglicized name when I was born as well, but how different would my life be, and how different would you guys see me if, number one, Jacoby, how do you pronounce my name?
Juicing.
Wrong.
How do you say it?
It's Jushin.
Okay.
Okay, it's close, right? It's close. Okay, but now I got to go throughout my life now correcting everybody on how to pronounce my name.
Mhm.
Okay. So anyway, so this is something that this topic came about because when RC used to work here at Proven, one of the first conversations that I had with him was, hey, the first thing they're going to see when you link in with somebody is that you're a Black guy. Okay. And and I don't know, how would you feel about that when I first said that, RC?
I don't know how I felt. I guess you want to feel that.
How did that make you feel? That were you
Well,
like, why are you
yeah.
talking to me about this? Or were you like, damn, he's actually having a real conversation with me, or
Yes,
both?
for sure. No. The second thing is why we're having a real conversation, because the reality situation is being a Black man, just we're in certain rooms that you traditionally should not be in. There's a lot of things that people don't necessarily deal with in reality situations. The first thing they see me is color. And then they listen to the conversation, and then they'll peel back that third layer that says, okay, qualification. So I agree with you, Lou, on that.
Okay. So anyway, that was the elephant in the room. And, you know, and many times, I think we ignore the fact that superficially we judge with our eyes first. Is this person attractive? Is this person not attractive? Is this person white? Are they Black? Are they male? Are they female? Are they tall? Are they short? Are they fat? Are they skinny? All of those things. And from that place, we start to make judgments, assumptions about who this person is and what they're going to do. And for as much as I would like to think that I am unbiased most of the time, or not prejudiced, the reality is that I think we are all in our own way prejudiced and biased, based on where we come from and how we were raised and our beliefs, and amongst some other things. And so the question then became, how do we, the whole topic of this, the point of this discussion, this panel, whatever you want to call this workshop, is how do we actually then address that elephant in the room in a way that can help us to sell, to whether it's our services, our products, whether it's about getting hired. And so is there a next slide there, Mike? I don't want to just ramble here. So,
Yep.
Jacoby and Tanya and Angela, were there any specific things that we wanted to cover? You wanted to cover from the last time? Because I did go over it. One thing I did not like about that last video was how high my voice was. So I'm going to practice my.
Much lower.
I want to be like RC, and I want to talk down here.
So I didn't. We didn't have any. Personally, I didn't have anything particular. I'd love to open to the audience and to all of you. I mean, what did we want to? What did you all want to focus on?
Yeah, well, I mean, last time it was a very race based, but there's
Mhm.
also different types of minorities, women, religion, so I think that's something that we wanted to hear more of, just people who are out like in the minority of those categories or any other minority category, just how you sell or how life is in the work environment for you.
One thing that's coming up right now are the holidays. Okay. And in this environment, are we now supposed to say happy holidays? Are we actually supposed to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa? What are we supposed to do here? And within the context of business and within the context of work, what is appropriate? And I would love to hear Michelle's take, because Michelle loves Christmas. She loves the whole winter wonderland.
I know, I do. Yes, I do. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle. I also work at Proven. My comment was going to be, is this whole topic overblown? Do we need to be, it's an interesting discussion, but does it really matter? And who does it matter to? And who is being offended when we say the wrong thing? Which people are they right to be offended? Or is the other side right to wish all kinds of things that they believe in? I don't know. It's a complex issue. I personally say happy holidays when I'm signing off a card in a work capacity, unless I am friends with the person, in which case I say Merry Christmas, despite not being Christian. Let's be clear there also. I am a full Jewish person, but I am in love with Christmas. I don't know if you want to let me make comments about other things, which I have more comments about lots of things.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay, so one of the comments I wanted to make was the line between appropriateness in like a legal sense and appropriateness in how people are going to judge you. I think that Sikh example was really interesting because no matter which way that lands in the courts, which I'm not sure because I don't know anything about that case, people will make judgments about people regardless. So there's, we could try to pull apart what is appropriate in the workplace. Should you be allowed to wear this, or should you be allowed to have that hairstyle, or should we allow all things? But it doesn't really matter if it's officially decided to be appropriate. What matters is how will people interpret you? How will you be taken in by others? And same thing for the LinkedIn profile. I think we could dig in even more with those LinkedIn profile pictures. All those profile pictures were appropriate. And all pictures are, unless they're literally inappropriate. Let's imagine we're in a world where there's no explicit LinkedIn photos. But they're all appropriate, but people will judge you regardless. Appropriate is not really the bar. The bar is how well do you know how people are judging you? Are you like, I think that's one of the first things you have to do. How you have to dig through what biases will people hold against me? And it's like Jacoby just said, it's race is like a really obvious one. But then there's like 20 more layers deep that people can hold against you. And just knowing that is a good place to start so that you can try to counteract it, or you can put in your headline something that works against it. I know RC talked about he's very aware of the way he dresses in his profile picture and the way he dresses on Zoom calls as a way to counteract biases that might be held against him. So just like knowing what it's an uncomfortable exercise to try to list out all the things people might hold against you, but I think it actually could be quite productive.
So I have a question for you about this. So my feeling is always it goes back to intent, right? Like what is the intent with the way that someone is addressing me, or the terms that they use, or I don't mind if somebody uses the wrong term or says Merry Christmas if I'm not religious, if the intent is good, but maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe that's maybe intent doesn't matter to other people. I don't know. That's just
But I think it's hard to judge
no.
whether somebody's intent. I don't know that there was a lot of bad intent on people's part when somebody's, for example, this whole idea of, like, for example, when people ask you, hey, where are you from? Annandale, Virginia. No, it's Springfield. No, where are you really from? I was born in Korea. Is that what you're asking me?
Right. Which can
Okay.
still be offensive.
I don't know. I mean, is that offensive?
Right.
Some people find it extremely offensive. I find it interesting. When my wife worked in Springfield, Missouri, and we were at Battlefield Mall, and every store, people asked us, where y'all from? Where y'all from? DC and Chicago. No, where you really from? And where'd you learn to speak English like that? And the third time we got asked that question, we said, why are you asking us where we learned to speak English? And they said, well, we've never seen people like y'all except for on TV.
Oh, wow.
And the only people that we've seen like y'all are at the Chinese restaurants, and they can't speak English. And so, I don't know if there's any bad intent on their part, but they just hadn't interacted with individuals like myself and my wife, who spoke perfect English, who had been educated in the United States, who were raised in the United States. And so,
Right, but if you had, okay, so if you had known that there was some malintent, that they knew very well that you were born in the United States and it was a dig, does that change things? I mean, I know that it's hard to tell what the intent is with everyone, but I think, for some people, the first time, maybe it might sting a little bit, but I'm willing to overlook. But then if I know that they know, and it's just a way to put me in my place, or to, point out something different about me, then that's when I get offended, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Mike?
I mean, I think one thing on this specific slide that comes to mind, right, is, how do you relate and how are different ways to appeal to people that are from different backgrounds, right? I think naturally, like, regardless of race, regardless of my story or my struggle, right, I think of like things that everybody else enjoys too, that doesn't necessarily mean race, like sports, for instance, right? Like the commonality me and Lewis share is also jujitsu. So, I think there's different things in society that are interests that tie people together that help kind of bridge that gap, that break that stereotype that sometimes makes it hard to sell and break through the initial conversation or the initial appeal of what I look like, or, that I think there's always will be judgments in the beginning when you meet somebody naturally, but how do you overcome those things? It's being relatable, it's being memorable, right? I think in the last slide, we talked about code switching to a certain extent too, but what if you don't, like, before you even open your mouth, right? Like, what are the things that kind of can set you apart? And, I think these are some of the things we talk about here, the stories of struggle.
Can you define
Yeah,
code
family.
switching? I had a question here. Somebody was asking, what is code switching?
So from my understanding, code switching is when you're basically changing the way you speak to assimilate to the person you're speaking to. So and for instance, like if you usually speak in slang with somebody, right? When you're presenting to a group of professionals in a different setting, you probably wouldn't be speaking in slang because that's not, you're kind of switching the way you communicate to assimilate to the environment that you're in. So I don't know if that makes sense or not. So obviously talking in slang is probably not the most professional in certain settings, right? But you code switch to kind of assimilate to talking in a presentation, right? I think that's,
Hey,
correct me
RC,
if I'm wrong.
can you talk about your code switching from working at Proven to or anywhere or Sigma or anywhere, and how that, do you do it? Number one, why do you do it? What if you didn't do it? I mean, there's so many questions here. Is it necessary? Is it important? Do you recommend it? Do you wish you didn't have to do it? RC?
Okay, I guess that was for me, Lou.
Yeah, that's for
So,
you.
Code switching, for me, it's something I've learned at a young age before I identified what that terminology meant. Obviously, again, it goes to
What was it
one.
called? What was it called when you were young, or do you even talk about? Did you even talk about it?
Yes, in the Black community, they call it acting white, which is an unfortunate negative terminology that we use within the Black community. But as you grow and understand, it's really code switching. So, for example, I'll give you two scenarios of being a minority. So, being a minority, I'm a CEO of a tech company. Just the layer within that is just not a lot of Black folks within recruiting. And then specifically in technology, you're just not going to find anyone. And then someone that's the face of a company, running a company, you're really talking about a very, very small group. So that's one minority. And then I have a minority of my friends that I grew up with. I grew up in San Diego. Some of my friends are in the streets, some are in professional sports, some are just kind of professionals. So in just my friends that's not running a business, I am a minority because they don't understand or identify the struggles or the headaches or the success that I'm dealing with. So the code switching I have to have just the two different groups is, okay, when I'm talking to my friends, I cannot use some of the words I'm using in these board meetings for them to understand and grasp the concept that I'm trying to get across to them. So therefore, now I'm translating corporate language to slang for them to adjust. Or if I'm going to board meetings, or if I'm talking to my employees, or if I'm talking to a candidate or a client in the tech space, I have to be able to code switch. Okay, how do I understand this role and dumb it down to get this part across to the audience? So the point that I'm making, Lou, or just the team, is that sometimes you naturally, I think majority of folks, we do code switch. Is that sometimes we don't understand that we're actually doing it, where you're talking to your family and you're having a totally different conversation. And then when you go to work or you're talking to a spouse or significant other, you might have a completely different conversation. Now, in my reality, I have to do it all the time just because I have to be able to engage my audience. I have to take pride to understand, okay, yes, I'm a Black man. Yes, I'm all these things, but at the same time, understand the value that I'm adding. And the only way I can do that is being able to code switch. How can I take my real life examples and translate it fast enough that I can dumb it down or get a very valid point across? So code switching, honestly, it's an everyday thing. I think the best thing advice I can give folks, understand what you have and be able to kind of harness that. One of the few things I've done in a very early age is being able to identify my strengths when it comes to code sharing. So you don't even understand I'm doing the code sharing.
I mean, the code switching.
Code switch.
Question. So the term and topic of assimilation has like a negative connotation.
Mhm.
Like Lewis was saying, there's this idea that we should bring our whole selves to work. So do you see that as a thing, like a sad thing that you have to code switch, or that you can't be yourself at work, or you can't be yourself with your friends, you can't be your whole self? Or is it just like a fact of life and everyone has to, like you said, engage different audiences and therefore be a different person for that audience?
Great question. I was actually debating with Lou yesterday. I think, unfortunately, it's just part of life that you have to deal with it. And I'm saying specifically from a Black reference. Now, I don't care what shade of Black you are. Just let me phrase that from a minority standpoint. And the reason why I feel that way is because it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to get judged until you have a conversation or see my qualifications. The first thing you're going to do is see me. But with that being said, is you have to make a decision. Am I going to be an individual that's going to fight the system my entire life to say, accept me out of who I am? Or you take the route that I think the most successful folks that I've had conversations with, I need to just get my foot in the door and be able to slowly break down that prejudice or negative connotation that they may have for folks that look like me. Now, I've met folks that say, hey, no, I want to be myself every day, all day. And you may have this conversation 10 to 15 years from now. They expanded so much energy trying to fight the system, and literally we can take the same route, but I took my direction, and then literally I made more of a change and broke down more doors of kind of understanding, hey, this is the environment, understanding that I can have parts of me that I can show the world, but parts of me, I still have to make sure that it is code switching. So to answer your question, I do feel like it's part of life, and I just dealt with it to understand it's easier for me to break down doors if I can show them that, hey, I have the best of both worlds. I have the world that you want to see, and also the world that kind of makes me different, but also I can open up more doors for those behind me, opposed to saying, hey, no, day one, I have a bunch of tattoos, I use a lot of slang, accept me, hire me because I'm good for the job. That just does not work for a person of color in corporate America.
I think code switching is very important for relationship as well. For example, let's say like at home, because I know like we're bringing up the term slang a lot, but I feel like it's, especially in like the Black community, it's almost like a dialect. It's like ethnicity tied dialect, to where I feel like all over the US, Black people have this way of speaking that's all similar no matter where they're really from. It's like this, it's almost like it's rooted from like the Southern roots in a way, like the just kind of how it goes, like that's how it is. But anyways, I feel that it's important. Code switch is important for relationship building. For example, like if I'm talking with my friends, I want to say something that they can like, that we're all enjoying. It sounds like it's just fun to speak. It's fun to speak the way that you grew up, and like the way, like the environment you grew up around. But the thing is, if when you take that to like say like corporate world, like yeah, like you say, like oh, be yourself. But the thing is, if you take that like way of speaking to the corporate world, it might just be a simple like miscommunication, like where people don't understand you. For example, like, well, this is not corporate, but like when I studied abroad in Thailand, and there's a lot of international students, and like the common language there is English. So everyone's speaking English there. So when I went there speaking like old slang, yeah, like speaking with like my slang or just whatever dialect, there's times where they didn't even understand what I was saying. Like they didn't understand the words I was using. For example, I'd be like, oh yeah, low key, this and that, or low key that, or like I just throw in words, and they just like, there's points where it's just a disconnect. But that also happens in the corporate world, where you might be saying something and they don't even know what you mean. You be like, you know what I mean? And they're like, no, I don't know what you mean. It's like, okay, but when you're at home and you're or with your friends, you're like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's like it just, you know what they mean. Like it's funny. I don't know how, like that's just the way it works. Like you have to code switch, because it's just getting the message across to where everyone can understand it the best.
So, I thought, I was thinking about this yesterday or the day before, rewatching some of the video from the last session. And, so much of I think what we have to compromise, what we have to change has to do with the power dynamics. And so whoever has the power, whoever has the authority to either buy or whatever is ultimately in many ways who we compromise to. Again, my parents didn't, I guess they did, but again, if my name were Jushin instead of Lewis, I don't know what doors would have opened or closed for me. I think back in the day, and I was not proud to be Asian when I was in my teens. When I was in elementary school, it was your parents have an accent, your food smells funny, your clothes smell funny, your house smells funny, everything's funny about you. To a world today where my boys are now 15 and 16 years old, and Korean food, Korean culture, Korean music, Korean movies, Korean TV, it's all popular, and it's like my boys are having a totally different experience now. And in many ways, they don't have to code switch. They don't have to change who they are as they go to school. They look like, one of them looks like BTS, acts like BTS, and the girls are following him like BTS. I'm like, where was that for me? It wasn't there for damn sure. But I forgot one of the points I was thinking of bringing up today. But anyway, so I just wanted to share that experience because it keeps going back to what is compromise and what isn't, as we're trying to be. And one thing I thought about that idea of bringing your whole self to work, and I think it's said often, but with the context of as long as it's not too crazy, as long as it's not too Black, it's not too Hispanic, it's not too Asian, it's not too anything, as long as it's kind of within the boundaries of what we consider professional. And I think about this when within the context of my work. What if Mike did grow out his hair? Actually, what if RC grew out his hair? Can you grow out your hair, RC?
No, I was gonna say, Lou, that's a messed up joke. I can't grow hair anymore.
But what if Mike grew out his hair and he had a ponytail?
How much of that is professional though? Is it professional versus?
But here's the thing though. I mean, what's professional these days? And that's the issue. We lived in an environment 2 years ago where broadcast television was everybody in a suit and everybody was all buttoned up and pretty and everything. And then we went into a pandemic where people were now working off of headphones and their own video camera, their cell phones and everything else. And they were in their pajamas and they had dogs and cats and babies and everything else going on. And now you see people eating on TV, and what's professional? And so I think the lines have been blurred. But one of the questions that I had, because this is the Regional Entrepreneur Center Innovation Lab partners at Miramar College. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Regional Entrepreneurship Center.
Okay. So, if, for example, you are a minority or you are a woman or a man, and your audience is all Black, or they're all white, or they're all women, or they're all Asian, do you have to sell for yourself if you're not that person? And would it be better? Are you compromising if you get somebody who is of that gender or that ethnicity or that culture to sell for you, to be the head of sales or the public person? Is that a compromise?
I think smart business. I think smart business.
I would love to hear,
For the
because
audience.
it's actually one of the recommendations that I had for, I wish I could remember his name. Let's see if I can find him. It's one of the student, or one of the last name Brito. I think he's from Brazil. And
Oh, Philippe.
yes, Philippe.
Mhm.
And so, one of the recommendations I had for him was
Yeah.
for him not to be
The
the
face.
spokesperson for his company.
Because his accent's so thick.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think it's one of the biggest challenges. And so is that a compromise, or is that just being business smart? And so, for those of you guys that are trying to start your own businesses and you're trying to reach I don't know who's, what your audience is, but if you're trying to reach a wide audience, not white, a wide audience, and you can afford to, or you can partner with, okay, how do you feel about having an individual who is more representative of the audience, whether they're women or they're men or they're Black or they're white or they're Asian or Hispanic or whatever the case might be?
Yeah, and Philippe is here today. I mean, welcome your input, Philippe. If what do you think?
Yeah, if you could afford it, would you do it? And or is that does that feel like you're selling out yourself? Because people should accept you as you are. RC, what do you think?
Great question. With myself, I would definitely hire somebody that appeals to that audience. So specifically with tech, like for example, early next year, I will be hiring a business development person, right? Obviously, I want to hire the most qualified person, but also have to think about my audience and who I'm trying to get business from. Right now in the tech space, there's a bunch of older white men that still run a lot of these big companies, or folks that just don't look like me. And what I've learned just in business, people want to do business that look like them, So with that being said, no, I don't feel like I'm compromising who I am as a Black man, nor do I feel like I'm losing control because I'm still running my company. But you have to think about things like that. So I agree with you, Lou. I don't think that's the issue, nor would I hesitate to make that decision. If you're qualified and I feel like you can gauge a better audience than I could, let's go for it.
Steve actually is asking an interesting question now, and we'll get to Jasmine's question as well. But doesn't that just perpetuate the stereotype?
Yes and no, but at the end of the day, life is not fair. Yes, when I get a chance to communicate with somebody, I break down a lot of stereotypes, or when people see a LinkedIn page or you just have a real conversation. But unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. You just see a LinkedIn page. You see a message coming from CEO of Nevlon Recruit. You don't have enough time to do that. So just again, speaking from a Black perspective, that's a real situation. I get judged before I even chat. So unfortunately, the only time I get a chance to break down that stereotype is when you have a conversation. For right now, we're talking about from an entrepreneur standpoint, your goal is to make money, continue to grow your business. Unfortunately, you're going to have pieces in place to help push your company forward. And that's something I'm willing to do without feeling like I'm breaking my integrity.
So that means like getting somebody else to open the door so that you can have that conversation.
Exactly.
Okay. Michelle?
We read a lot of professional development books at Proven, and a lot of them talk about mirroring, which you see is number one on that list. And they aren't aimed towards minorities. They're mostly aimed towards probably like corporate, white, middle-class people. And they are being told that mirroring is the best way to connect with someone. I use mirroring all the time. If you are the one person not using it because you want to bring your full self to work, I think you end up not benefiting from this. You're going to be the one person or the one group that is going to be excluded from the party which sounds terrible, because you're not willing to compromise. But if everyone else is compromising and everyone else is mirroring their people, and I switch the way I talk. If I'm talking to like another young Jewish girl, I suddenly have like my high pitched voice. I say like all the time. I'm gossiping. I don't talk about work. And if I don't do that, I'm not going to connect as well. And if I want to sell that girl something, she's definitely going to like me better with my Jewish voice on. Just think who you would prefer to buy from. Who do you connect with easiest? And then reverse it. Say you're the salesperson,
Mm-hmm.
We like people like us, which is not necessarily a good thing. But if you're not using it to your advantage, or if you're the only person not using it to your advantage, then you're being disadvantaged.
I guess for some reason Kevin Hart pops into my brain for some reason right now, and Kevin Hart is on a lot of commercial these days. I think the latest one is with the woman from Home Alone, the mom from Home Alone.
Yep.
I think he's like, you lost another Kevin. And I don't know what he's selling there, but he's also, I think, been on commercials for Chase Bank. He's also been on, so why is Kevin Hart why is he on so many commercials these days? Is it because who does he reach? Does he reach white people?
He's reaching a target market.
Okay. And so, I guess the reason I'm asking this is because I think sometimes, at least I do sometimes, or I did, I felt uncomfortable sending out other people than myself because I didn't want, I literally had to, Mike and I can't go out to a meeting together at a company. And Tanya's like, well, why is that?
Mhm.
Okay, because people think that we are now an Asian only company.
Oh,
That has happened before.
wow.
Not with me and Lewis, but me and another person at the company that is Asian.
And what did they ask you, Mike? What did they specifically ask you?
Are you the Asian recruiting company, right,
Oh.
in San Diego? And I was like, well, one of our owners is Asian, but we do have another person that is also not
You
Asian.
know, but if you get two white people together and they go out to, on a meeting together and representing Proven, does somebody ask, are you a white company? Are you a white owned
Not at
company?
all.
But
But
we
two
have to,
females,
but I have
two
to think about
females.
that. I have to literally think about that. And I literally have said, you know what? I don't want you guys going out together because there's going to be this perception, and it's a negative perception, that you are an Asian only company.
but then,
Because not
back-
not because I've personally experienced that, and as has Mike. When I worked at Kforce, people constantly ask me, is the K in Kforce for Korean? No.
so then go
it-
back to
it-
that Kevin Hart thing. Why does he, I mean, obviously he's reaching across the lines, or else companies wouldn't use him. You know, he's obviously speaking to the majority, to white people. So how
But I
does he do it? Right?
Humor.
What's that? Humor.
I think humor bridges quite a bit of lines that doesn't necessarily mean race or the things that you see. I mean, obviously, a little bit of his jokes can kind of be relatable to everybody, but I think humor is a way to break some of those
Mm,
maybe initial prejudices, right?
mm.
Kevin Hart's a well-liked comedian, like black comedian as well, amongst all races, I would say. You know, like opposed to like, let's say like Cat Williams, he's more targeted towards like black culture. So I feel like using Kevin Hart is a good way to bridge to all audiences while being inclusive.
Mhm. Anyway, there was a question here earlier from Jasmine. Mike, you can read it, or
Yeah, sure. Let's see here. If you're not, so is it BIPOC? Is that
BIPOC.
right? Your non-BIPOC colleagues interpreted a younger BIPOC employee who was showing up as their authentic self and labeled them as unintelligent. What would you tell your non-BIPOC colleagues about your younger BIPOC employee?
And BIPOC, everybody knows, is a Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Is that right?
that's correct.
Yep, that's right.
Well, I think there's a, number one, is that person. So if your non-BIPOC colleagues interpreted a younger BIPOC employee who was showing up as their authentic self and labeled them as unintelligent.
And
I think
assuming,
I
that
think-
you're BIPOC, or sorry, it didn't cut me to interrupt you.
That's right. I think it depends on what the circumstances are. I mean, are we having to tell the person the same thing over and over again, and they're just not getting it, and they're bringing their authentic selves to the workforce, or are they doing the same exact thing as their non-BIPOC counterparts, but they're being singled out because of their hair or their dress or their language or whatever the case might be. I think it depends, and so we are lucky. We have people of lots of different ethnicities and races and colors and creeds and religions here at Proven, and so we do look at the numbers, and somebody just asked me over chat on my phone, would we consider somebody without a college degree? Okay, and so I know there are those of us who regularly discriminate based on whether or not somebody has a degree or doesn't have a degree. Are they educated or not educated? Just because somebody's educated doesn't mean that somebody's intelligent or not intelligent. And my response was, it's all about their track record. It's all about their accomplishments. It's all about how they have conducted themselves over the course since whenever, high school, whatever. Doesn't matter whether they've graduated from college or not. but it's about their track record. And so, I think
But
it's-
that's just another form of discrimination. It's discrimination based on experience then, right? And then you could
Sure.
say,
Sure.
I mean, there's always going to be some form of discrimination.
right. I mean, I mean, as recruiters, you might as well call us discriminators.
Right, right.
We have to discriminate legally,
Based on-
hopefully ethically and morally as well. But what our jobs are to discriminate all day, every day, and decide who is and who is not a fit for our clients and the roles that they're trying to fill.
Wow, I never looked at it that way. Yeah.
So I hope that answered the question, Jasmine. But I think the context is important. But if you're in a work environment where everyone is being measured equally based on whether it's production or activity or quality, and sometimes it's hard to do those things in a workplace. Sometimes things are subjective, but luckily, I think for us in our work environment, they're not as subjective. They're pretty objective. Did you or did you not get this thing done? Did you or did you not find the individual? Did you or did you not find a candidate, submit the candidate? Did you prep the candidate, debrief the candidate? So there's all these things that we can measure. Did you or did you not make a placement? And you can't always do those things within the context of a work environment, but those would be the questions that I would follow up with if somebody were, what do you mean unintelligent? How do you define unintelligent?
Right.
And that's one of the things I think some people hate numbers, but
They're fair.
in our environment, or at least the way that we try to train, I've constantly talked about not using adjectives to describe people. Okay, they're smart, they're fast, they're hungry, they're intelligent. Okay, well, tell me how that has they've demonstrated those adjectives. Okay, so for example, when somebody says they've got great communication skills, okay, they've done 1,000 presentations in front of 100 people and received raving reviews on every single presentation they've ever done, Google reviews. Okay, and so now you can actually objectively quantify what they've done, rather than, hey, they've got great communication skills. I don't know what your grade is versus my grade. So anyway, I'm rambling. Let's see. Steve's got some good points again.
Oh, and I want to make sure that we have time. We have time at the end too for some questions from the audience as well. So if you have questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat too, people.
Michelle, no, you always have stuff you want to get off your chest.
No, I think we covered pretty well everything that I wanted to say. I have already inserted all of my maybe controversial, maybe not controversial opinions. But I think you can shout out your questions also, guys. You don't need to put them in the chat.
Yeah.
Jacoby, did you want to blurt out something?
Yeah, I did.
ahead.
So so with long hair, can you just kind of go deeper into why you don't think it's kind of weird for guys to have long hair? Because, for example, like someone that has dreads, I've seen people that have like very well kept dreads. They look really nice. They look cool. So, and that's obviously long hair. So, how would you feel about that?
I think I have to catch myself constantly and re-ask myself the question: what's their track record? What are their accomplishments, regardless of their hair, their skin color, their religion, their dress, whatever. Okay, and especially within the remote context these days, what have they done? And let's forget about their hair or their anything about them physically. Okay, and so, but within the context, within my experience, I've yet to meet a long-haired, ponytailed guy who has been a serious professional in the business world other than Ted Waite. Just my personal experience, I just haven't met that person yet. And so, that's my own bias. I think it's still legal to do that. Michelle, is it legal? I think it might be.
I think so. I don't know. Don't hold that against us. Go do your own research. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But
So-
it wouldn't, would it stop you from hiring someone with long hair?
Or not even stop you, but just give you a negative first impression.
It would. I mean, I'm being honest. It would. You know, my brother has got purple hair. My brother's got long purple hair. His name is Moses, and he's the third out of 4 boys, and he's got long purple hair. And he hasn't been the most serious professional in the business world, but he's on the creative side, and he can get away with it. But you know, he's still my younger brother, and that's another bias as well. And so, you know, and I think that's the biggest issue for all of us, is that regardless of whether we're white or black, male or female, Hispanic, Asian, tall, short, fat, ugly, beautiful, not, there is a bias that we have to work against. And sometimes it works in our favor, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think the wrong thing to do, at least in my opinion, is to ignore it and to pretend as if it doesn't exist.
Mhm.
And I think, at least in my opinion, the most important thing is that it doesn't exist for other people. And you know, the reason that this topic came up was when we do trainings here at Proven, we do trainings typically from the majority viewpoint. But what I say won't work for some of our newest people. I am a 52-year-old Asian male with 26 years of recruiting experience with the title of CEO. What I say and how I say it comes across very differently than a 22, 23-year-old person who has just graduated from school, who has no experience, no title, and they are extremely young. And when they say it, they're not even going to get heard, because the first thing they see is, oh, this person just graduated. I'm not even going to pay attention to this person. Never mind. See ya. And so how do you?
I don't
Go
mean to be short, but I have to go to a meeting right now. But I just want to thank you for answering that for the most part, like my question. But also, I just want the audience know, please get feedback on this workshop today. This was a great workshop. I just dropped the link right here in the chat, and I'll see you guys all later. Thank you, Louis.
Bye, Jacoby. Yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Louis, you
it's
want to go ahead and finish it up? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I lost my train of thought there, but I think we.
Yeah,
Are
we're,
we
we're
up?
pretty much out of time, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I guess you know, just
I think it's
as I'm
important.
rethinking about that point,
Yeah.
though, is just
Mm.
for those of you that are entrepreneurs and owners eventually of your own company, and when you're selling or when you're teaching,
Yeah.
you know, I think you have to really keep in mind for your employees, for your staff, as to who they are and how they're going to be perceived by their customers. And to not think about those things is a disservice to yourself and to your employees. And to address the elephant in the room, it's, hey, you're a black dude. How are people in this community or this audience going to perceive a black dude when you approach them? Okay, you're a white woman. How are they going to be perceived? And maybe in many cases, there's no big deal. It's not a big deal. No one's going to care. Well, I disagree. And I think, you know, the more that we think about those things and we can think about how society does perceive us, we can be smarter about it. It doesn't mean that we don't do anything, you know, we just ignore it and we just charge full steam ahead. I think we have to consider these things and be smart about them. And the smarter we can be, the more effective we can be as entrepreneurs and as leaders.
And I agree. I just want to say one last thing. I do want to caution people to know that these biases exist, but be careful. Know that they exist and know that you could, because of your implicit biases, you could pass up on somebody who is really the absolute right person, the best person, the most qualified person, if you're not really careful to look past them and, you know, and hire the right person for the job, not the person that you like the most or that you can see yourself going out with. I don't know.
No, just I'm going to add one last thing. One of the things that we talk about at Proven is we try to add to our culture.
Mm.
Okay, and we try to add people that add to the company rather than people that just fit in. Because if we just add people that fit in only, we're going to continue to add people that are just like ourselves. And that is a big challenge to all of you as you guys start your companies and add people to your companies, is how do people add to the company rather than just fit into the company?
I love
So
that. I
We
love
can end
that.
with that.
That's
Okay.
great. I love that. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. You can access this workshop as of tomorrow on our YouTube channel. Thanks all for coming. Take care and thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Speakers.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
guys have a great day.
Take care. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Great ending.